All right, time to talk about the best matches of TTAC 14. I have narrowed down to top six contenders. This is primarily a video being made to discuss them for my panel, but I thought I should share the video more widely to celebrate the six matches that we're soon going to narrow down to three. Uh, I think these were the six matches that stood out to me as the most interesting. Again, I wanted matches that took at least a few games, at least 5 games played. That's what I said at the minimum. And that really had interesting high level of play. So the round one match that stood out to me was the one I played, but it was the only one kind of sufficient length anyway, and I think it was a good one. We'll get into that more. Piggyman beating me. Chicony versus Midas only played the open set, basically. You'll notice there was only one win total. This is win, tie, loss format for results. But I think still a really compelling match. We'll get more into that one. Piggyman versus Slash. Smokes versus Turds in the quarterfinals. Those were both quarterfinals matchups. And then Piggy over Smokes in the semifinals. And you might ask, where's Tezuka? Obviously, he played his matches really well, but he won all his matches too quickly. I think none of them are that kind of lengthy or in-depth matches to really discuss, because he just played great and he whomped everyone. And incredibly deserving winner of a tournament, but not a creator of really epic matches because, too dominant. So this brings us to the case for each of the six. I think the Was Up Deli All match had 6 open games without a single error and some clever closed stuff too. So I think just kind of flawless open is pretty impressive over 6 games against tough opponents. Piggyman Was Up is, I had won the last 2 tournaments and Piggyman absolutely destroyed me with a nice feel for combo potential and elemental impacts really combining effectively. Chicony-Midas was really nice pressure both ways and defense in extremely complicated positions. This was also in round 2. The elemental sets, I think, are just very difficult to calculate all that accurately, and they got these really messy positions that made it even harder to calculate, and played, I think, very, very well. Piggyman vs. Slash of Time was Piggy's pick for the best of his matches. Slash took an early lead by winning the closed game, but then Piggy kept finding new ways to pressure in each of the open games, and Slash kept finding ways to defend himself from tough positions. And I think it was really, really impressive on both sides there. Smokes Turds. Smokes wins the open game very comfortably, but then they play some nice close games, and obviously this is a very high-level match, 2 players that are really good regardless of open-closed. And then we have Piggy Smokes in the semifinals, which was, another good one. It's hard for me to come up with new things to say about the Piggy matches. They're all really, really strong, and hopefully you've watched the videos of Piggy explaining his wins in each of those rounds. So I think there is a clear top 3 to choose from. And so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show highlights from each of these 3 matches of what I think the best moments were, what I think the best moves were, and really try to celebrate those. And the 3 matchups that jumped out to me were, I do think my match with Delial, just the fact that no mistakes were made in open against a high level of play and over a large number of games, is really impressive, and I'm kind of proud of how I ended up winning one of the closed games. I thought it was neat and worth some celebration. Then Piggyman Slash of Time was Piggy, who, was the runner-up of the tournament, his personal choice for his best match of the tournament. I think he's right, and I also wanted to honor that I suspect he has a good sense of which was the best match he played. I've talked a bunch over videos about how I think when a player is pressed in 2 or 3 games, they tend to fold. And this has been true at kind of all levels of opposition and whoever you take. That there have been very few exceptions to if someone gets in serious trouble for 2 or 3 games, they will likely reach a lost position. And I think Slash defended longer than most have defended in difficult positions. I think there are a few exceptions to the kind of you will be lost within a few games of facing extreme pressure. No one's going to just continually defend perfectly. But Slash's defense here was one of those times where I think maybe that wasn't the case. Maybe Slash defended so well that he survived clearly more than 2 or 3 games where he was in, I think, under pretty significant pressure. And also kudos to Piggy for just in the early game of just every game in their match finding advantages and finding ways to push it. Really great match. And then Chicony-Midas, I think, is possibly another example. Midas being maybe one of the best defensive players on the site, because one of the few other examples of someone surviving multiple presses was Midas against Selder in Triad Wars. And I think Midas again managed it here, though quite a few of the games Midas is the one with a lot of pressure. But Midas, very difficult player to beat. Which doesn't mean he never loses, but it means he, it'll take a whole bunch of games most of the time to break through, unless he really hasn't gotten a grasp on the rule set, because he defends these difficult positions really, really well. And at some point, the samples are small, so it's hard, but at some point, I did this with some open randoms at the start of the site, kind of looking at what percentage of games do you reach a winning position? What percentage of games do you reach a losing position? What percentage of winning positions do you convert? What percentage of losing positions do you lose? Is kind of 4 stats. So how often do you reach a winning position is kind of how often do you create chances to win? And then there's how often do you reach a losing position? How often do you, concede chances? And I think Midas's chance concession rate is really low. Then there's, how often do you convert your chances? How precise are you at finishing off games? And how often do you lose your losing chances? I think might sound not that meaningful, like you're lost, you should lose. But I think there's actually pretty wide variation there. I think it's probably the skill of the 4 that I personally am worst at, which is that when I am lost, I don't defend particularly well. I think I kind of lose without too much fight. And I think that's something to work on. But anyways, I think Midas is an exceptional defensive player, and he does not only play well defensively in this match. So I think fundamentally the best matchups are kind of when someone is awesome at saving positions, so the match just extends with, really creative attacks and really creative defenses. And I think we got a bunch of it here. So those are the 3 I'm going to really focus on here, and we're just going to show some highlights. Have we covered these matches yet? All of Piggy's analysis of his match with Slash has gone up. I caught some of the games live and have commentary of it that will go up eventually, but probably not for like a couple months. I recorded a lot of TTAC videos, and everything's been pushed back and delayed. At least 1 video about Chicony-Midas has gone up, but I think 2 have. I think I set 1 to go up the 26th, 1 to go up the 28th, and this will go up early November. So hopefully both of those have already been covered if you want to check that out. And my match with Delial, I commented all of it. There's about 6 hours of it. Not going to force my panel to watch all 6 hours, so I'm going to try to give it enthusiastic and positive coverage here to give it, a sufficient credit. But that's probably going to be the least covered of these 3. For the other 3 matches in the top 6, 2 of them were Piggy matches, so those received coverage. I've not talked about Smoke's Turds, and I haven't really looked at the games much, so that one might be getting short shrift, and if so, someone let me know and I'll try to cover that one. So we'll be going over the best moments of each here, and I was going to do them in chronological order, starting with the round 1 match, and then the round 2, and then the quarterfinals. But I think I sometimes run out of energy when doing these videos, and I want to have sufficient energy for the matches that are further in the tournament. So I'm going to start with the Piggy Slash match, then Chicony-Midas, and then myself versus Delial in round 1. And so we're going to start with Piggy Man vs Slash of Time, just some of my favorite moments. This is from game 3. And Slash started in 5, and Piggy took from 8. And Slash's up-down hand has some real problems taking that card in 8, right? The only possible capture from 9 is 7, 6, 4, 8, and that is comboed back real hard by 5, 4, 7, 6, and 6, right? And it's not that he should want to go in 7 or 9 immediately. It's just if he never has captures in those squares, this is a very difficult position to play. Furthermore, what are his captures in 7? Well, he only has 2 captures in 7. One is 7-6-4-8, and that is again beautifully covered by 5-4-7-6, which is a same in 4. And the other is 8-6-5-4, which is covered by 7-6-2-8. So Slash has no captures on the non-center card in this position that aren't really vulnerable to combo, and that says just how, I think, difficult this position is to play. It's also pretty easy for Piggy Man to start kind of building out, because if he plays in 7 or 9 with a 7 facing up, Slash's only capture either way is going to be 5-3-8-6, and that's potentially really risky because with the 5 facing up, 2-8-7-6 could combo it. I think this is just a really difficult position for Slash to play, and I think he found a really nice move to kind of steady the waters here. He played 8-6-5-4 and 9, just saying, okay, I'm never going to fight against your card in 8 well. I will just let you lock it in. Let me grab some safety of my own. And managed to get a tie with this move. I think it was a tough position. I think it was the first really difficult position he faced. And I was really thinking when watching this one live, this looks very dangerous to me. I don't think the Jays or the line are very good for Slash. I think Piggy's going to be finding a lot of pressure here. And I think going in 9, it's not just that it survived, it's that it really reduced the pressure and meant he didn't have to find something incredibly hard to find on his next move, right? And I think that's a lot of, you see someone make spectacular saves, but if they have to make too many spectacular saves, that means they're getting in trouble too much, right? And it's the player who kind of, when things start looking a little choppy, like in this position, just making a move that calms things and makes the path a lot easier, means in this game, Slash did not have to find a spectacular tie the next turn because he had already consolidated enough of the position to be able to get, under some pressure, but a relatively comfortable tie. This is from game 4, and again, I think Piggy has played really well out of the opening. Slash started in 5. Piggy went in 1, which really overworks the A5-4-8 in Slash's hand. It's really his only card with multiple captures on that corner, and especially because 4-6-8-7, the only other capture from 2, can be plus walled by Luca, A4-7-8. So really hard for Slash to approach the card in 1 with anything other than A5-4-8, but that's a problem because it makes him really over-reliant on one card, and that card isn't actually that good in 2 or 4, it never flips 5. Slash went in 9, using up a card that had very little play, facing towards the action in 1, and that would be easier to recapture. And Piggy played this very strong move in 4, just taking safety and playing against Slash not having much power here, facing towards the action. And in fact, the kind of obvious move of A5-4-8 and 2 is super losing. It's both really susceptible to combos from 8, because that card is weak to 5, and also can be taken immediately by Luca in 3, which is just safe. And so the kind of the obvious moves in 2 don't work. I think 6, there might be one tie in 6, but it's a pain to find. And so again, I think Slash, in a difficult position, found a really nice save in a somewhat obscure square, taking safety where he could, and using up a card that isn't doing much in this game. He played Tifa in 7. And again, it is a safe move, so it is one you consider, but it locks in one of Piggy's cards for him. Of course, you probably have no play against that card anyway. And I think in both of these defenses, Slash had a nice feel for, I have already lost that part of the board, so locking in Piggy's cards is not hurting me any more than I was already hurt over there, and found one of quite a small number of ties here. Again, really nice defense by Slash of Time, but also really nice offense by Piggy, right? Really nice find of a move in 1 that Slash can take, but uses a lower level card, and all Slash's captures are really uncomfortable and awkward, and then building out strongly from that strong beginning. Again, Piggy is finding a ton of pressure in this match, and Slash is defending really well, and this is 2 quite difficult positions he has already saved. This is game 5, and this is the one where, and we didn't even see some of the earlier games, this is the one where Piggy broke through. Slash again started in 5, and Piggy made this move in 6 that I think was a really nice fit for his hand. You'll notice looking at Piggy's hand, it has a lot of very similar cards and is very side-to-side focused. And when you see a center starter and you have a clear advantage going up, down, or going side to side against the opponent's hand, it kind of gives you control to set the game up accordingly. And by going in 6 and using up his only non-side to side card, I think Piggy sets himself really well for the side to side game. Now, after Slash's move in 4, I remember when watching this one, I started looking at 9, and I think Slash has a lot of power against moves in 9. 9 wasn't a very good idea, and I started thinking Slash's move was really good and that Piggy was in some danger here. But Piggy ends up finding safety in 3, which makes sense, and in fact is the only way to win this position. And Piggy goes, I think, with the 8 facing out from 3, though I believe the 6 facing out was also winning. Importantly, Slash can't go in 9, and the side-to-side cards really just cover everything here. So really nicely won game from Piggy, and I think stemmed from knowing exactly what his hand wanted to do and directing the game accordingly. And this tied up the match because Slash had won the close game, and so this tied the match 1-1 and sent us to open closed. And this is from the open closed, and Piggy started in 7, Slash went in 5, and I think Piggy made a really nice move in 4, again, giving Slash real difficulties. One point of this is it is weak to 5. So if Slash were to capture that card from 1 with a 5-8-7-6 or A8-5-4, he actually gets comboed back really hard from Odin in 6, or maybe 5-3-7-8 and 6, but I think Odin in 6 is the better way to do it. Or at least that is in the air. It doesn't have to be played immediately. Maybe if it is, Titus in 2 combos some stuff back. The line gets quite messy there. But anything in 1 is actually losing, because that combo in 6 hanging in the air, whether it's right to play it exactly immediately or hold on to it for a bit, is really powerful. And maybe actually Piggy can just take in 2 with 3-7-9A. So Slash can't tie in 1. 8, the problem is your only card for 8 is Titus, and Titus also has that 5 facing to the right, and Odin in 9 combos Titus and is safe. You know, Slash has no play against that. Slash's down power has got, if he uses Titus, he is completely out of downwards power. So this is again just a really difficult position because 1 and 8 are the natural squares to play in. I know a lot of players, when they get this kind of position and feel they don't have 1 and 8, a lot of people really like to go in 6. There might be a tie in 6 here, but 6 is obviously tough to get to work. And so again, I think Slash took this really difficult position and played an unintuitive move that ends up tying. He played Titus in 8. He allowed Odin in 9. And then, now that Odin has been played in 9, which is safe, but it flips 5, so he's no longer susceptible to the combos, he can now play in 1, grabbing 4, and that's just enough to sneak out a tie. But really nicely saved. This was a difficult position. The tie in the end comes down to that, like, at the end of the game, 7-6-4-8 lands in 6, and 5-3-7-8 and 3 can't quite take it. Though it could take a 6 or an 8, it can't quite take the 7 facing up. So very narrow margins here, and again, a really nice find of a move that is so easy to write off because it's such a big concession, right? You do lock in 7 forever, but you lose 8 forever, you lose 9 forever, everything flips against you. Feels very dangerous, and I think was another really nice save by Slash. But I also think great play by Piggy. I think the move in 4 here was just excellent. The fact that it is winning against any move in 1 is just speaks to how strong a move it was. This is from game 7, the same rule set we just saw. Piggy started in 7. Slash did not have very good power facing it, so he went in 4. And Piggy found this really nice move in 8 that may seem obvious, and I thought was kind of the natural thing to do, but I thought it didn't look that great because I missed it sets up that same with Larsa in 5. And that position, really difficult for Slash to play. The solver says there are a bunch of ways to survive, but they all look really ugly and uncomfortable. right? Any move you make in 1 or 9, like Larsa 5, looks like it just destroys you. There aren't good setups in 2 or 6 because Slash has or so little combo play against that 1. I guess maybe 5, 8, 7, 6, and 6 might have set up something, but it looks very tenuous to me. Really difficult position to play. Slash eventually goes in 3, kind of putting the onus back on Piggy, and Piggy ends up missing a win here. This is the one game with mutual mistakes of the match, where Piggy plays A8, 6, 1, and 6, Graph in 6, and Slash finds the only tying idea, blocking 5. But if Piggy had started with Larsa in 5 rather than trying to set it up, that would have won immediately. Slash doesn't really have any good captures. And the real reason it works is Slash's Titus in 9 is no longer a threat because 6, 1, 7, 8 has a plus in 6. So that's game 7. And then game 8, I'm sorry this is uglier to look at, but I did want to show the decisive game of the match. Slash started in a corner, I believe. I think he started in 7. And Piggy played this weak corner in 3, which induced 5, and then Piggy realized, my opponent has used up a lot of their left down power. Slash is really reliant on 3-7-9A, which is the bottom red card, and Piggy played 8-6-2-9 and 8, and suddenly 3-7-9A is Slash's only card that can do anything. It's the only capture in 9, and it's also the only capture in 4. And whichever square it's used on, he suddenly has no threat in the other square, nor does he have threats against the card next to the other square. So Piggy goes 8, if Slash goes 4, Piggy can go 1, and Slash has no power facing that. So he's just going to end up conceding so much, and there was no way to save this position. And Piggy converts the match. I think a really tough match. He wins it 2-1. Matches are always more exciting when 1-2-1 rather than 2-0. Went 8 games, and I think both the pressure found by Piggy and the defending done by Slash was really cool, and also a really interesting exploration of 5 starters. So I think this was a great match, and if you want more about it, you can get the Piggy coverage, which is even better, and eventually my live coverage will come out. So that brings us to our second match. We have Chicony versus Midas in round 2, big Brotherhood of Seed battle, and we're gonna skip to game 3. This was quite an interesting game. Chicony started in 7, Midas played in 1, Chicony played in 3, and Midas played what I kind of thought was the key tying idea in 2. And then Chicony noted, Midas no longer has a threat in 4, and went in 8. And we're left with this really interesting position where Midas found, I think, just fantastic attacking move here. You know, there's only 4 moves left, but it's hard to find things with Elemental on. Midas plays the really, really powerful 8-6-1-6 in 5, right? The least common square here, setting up 4-7-5-7 to have combos in both 4 and 6. And so if Chicony goes in 6 there, and there's a plus with 5-6-6-8, he gets comboed back by 4-7-5-7 and 4. Probably not 9-6-2-8, not if written 9, because then 4-6-8-6 lands in 4 really strongly. But there's all kinds of combo potential there. Really cool move. The elements always make me have difficulty actually counting the combos, but Chicony ends up finding the only tie there. He plays 4-6-8-6 and 4, which flips 2 cards, 5 and 1, and takes a 7-3 lead. But Midas has 4-7-5-7 in 6, which combos back 5 and 2, but no more, right? For a second, when calculating, I thought it comboed 4 as well, because 4 is the -1, but of course 5 has the -1. So it ends up being a tie, but I thought 5 was a really cool move to make here, and then it was Chicony who had to be a little careful. And of course, with 3 moves left, Chicony's not going to blow it, but also, it's about as tricky a position to calculate with 3 moves left as you could come up with, the Elemental making it much more annoying to actually figure out. really liked the move in 5 here, and liked the whole game. I like when players don't play in kind of the stereotyped squares, right? When instead they know where do my cards actually, where are they safe, rather than where can I sort of play closest to the most other cards. So I thought 8 was a neat move. I thought 5 was a neat move. It was a good game, and you can see my live coverage of it in a video that came out about a week ago. This is game 4 of their match, and this one was a very strange move order. Chicony started in 6, which with the +1 was actually just tremendously hard for Midas to take. You can see from the -1 and 3 that any kind of 7 facing down or anything like that was not going to be able to take it because it was going to have a -1. Midas's only card that could take it was 6187. And after the game, Chicony wrote in the comments that he thought Midas's reply was excellent, 6187 and 9, which he would have never considered at all himself because it was the only capture Midas had from 3, so Chicony's instinct would be hold on to that card. But actually, it was a really powerful move. It's really hard for Chicony to address that card. If he uses 4298, he really gives up so much downright power. And I think there were some tactical problems with that, though I don't remember now. But I think there were some really tricky lines after that. And it's also, Chicony doesn't have a great way to build out from 3, right? After 6 and 9, any card Chicony would put in 3, Midas has nice attack on with 6861. And so, he has that if 6648 and other cards he can take other ways. So after 6-9, Chicony goes in 1, just grabbing safety there, which was also the move I was looking at, as I recall. And Midas goes in 8, locking in 9, with, of course, quite high power facing out. Though, got to be careful about 8656 landing in 7 at some point. But that concedes 6861 in 4 or 7764 in 4. Seems okay. And I think Chicony finds a nice move in 3 there, with a weak power facing out, but does some useful things. And in this position, to speed through the analysis a bit, Midas plays 4876 in 2, which is so close to winning. Midas has played this game really well. His move in 9 was really good. His move in 8 was a good follow-up. Now he plays 4876 in 2, and it's very hard to find a save. 8656 in 5 has the -1, so doesn't even capture anything, but loses to... Because at this point, Midas is up 6-4, loses to 6861 in 4, comboing lots of stuff and not comboed back. 6648 in 5 has a plus, so flips 3 cards. It's going to flip 8, it's going to flip 2, it's going to flip 3, but is comboed back by 7764 in 4, and that's going to flip even more cards back. And note, 8656 does not combo back through 8 because 6648 and 5 already flipped 8. So 8 will stay Chicony's, which is not what Chicony wants there. I think Chicony ends up finding the tie in 7 and does save the position. But again, really complicated elemental positions. Worth pausing on these and taking a bit to figure them out. But 4876 and 2, so close to winning. Really nice played by Midas. And nicely saved by Chicony. Also, the starter was fun. It's always, obviously I don't like elemental, but when people notice stuff like, oh, this random card that's not a particularly strong corner is somehow almost safe as a side starter, that's fun to see, and leads to interesting positions. In game 4, I think this was the highlight of the match. Chicony started in 9, and I think Chicony is prone to strong corners that opponents have combo play against and can get in trouble this way. And here, Midas played what I think was a just unbelievably strong response, 6187 in 3, with the point that Midas had combo play. So Chicony's starter has a +1, right? Which means it's essentially a 10-9, which means Chicony can never play next to 9 without being comboed, right? So All Midas has to do at that point is set up combo potential both ways, and Chicony, without double setting up Chicony, and Chicony's really locked out of the game. Now 6-8-6-1 already has the plus wall in 8, so he needs to set up a plus in 6. There's no same, not that there are any sames possible here. Needs to set up a plus in 6, and can do so with 6-1-8-7, setting up 7-7-6-4 to have the plus in 6. And now suddenly it just feels impossible for Chicony ever to play near Ifrit. He has one card for each side. He won't be able to hold on to both. This is an incredibly dangerous position for Chicony. And even worse than that, 6-1-8-7 and 3 is also safe. Chicony has no captures from 6, and due to the element in 2, has no captures from 2. So this is a position where suddenly, like, both cards on the board are against you. One is Midas's and just safe to you, and the other is just huge outfacing numbers that is just combo bait. You're just waiting to have all your cards comboed through it. And I think Chicony's instinct here of, I gotta get rid of 6 and 8 as quickly as possible, is really on point, but he ends up finding a brilliant way to do so. Midas called this the best save he's ever seen, and I think it is an incredible saving idea. He plays 8-7-3-4 and 8, conceding 6 forever. But 6, I think, loses? I tried to calculate this yesterday. Again, I am not that confident in my calculations, both right now and with Elemental. But after 7-7-6-4 and 6, which flips everything, Midas leads 7-3, I think Chicony's brilliant idea here was that 5-6-7-7 and 5 on that +1 is just such an impossible card in the middle of the board for Midas to deal with. And it flips 6 and 8, so it makes it 5-5. It also covers anything that Midas could put in 7. Anything that isn't a 9 facing up, the 2-6-8-6 covers, but now the 9 facing up, the 4-8-6-7 covers. So it really sets up combo control of the remaining squares on the board. And also this 5-6-7-7 is safe in the middle of the board due to an elemental +1. Midas has no card that can take it from 4. The only card that could have, 7-7-6-4, has been induced out of his hand because it was the card that fit in 6. And no card can take it from 2 because the 5 up has a +1, so it's a 6. And the element on 2 means anything there has a -1, won't be able to flip it. And it threatens 2-6-8-6 and 2, which is a really big and dangerous plus. And I think it's actually just winning. I checked 2 and 7. I couldn't find a tie in either. I think if Midas goes in 6 here, which is such a natural, obvious, can't be wrong move to do, 5-6-7-7 and 5 not only saves the game, but somehow wins it. Midas ends up finding a save in 7. I described this a little wrong in the video. I talked about it before because I hadn't read through the chat, so I had a little wrong sense of what the players were thinking, but hopefully I have it right now. And yeah, what an idea. What a creative idea. Chicony, in so much trouble under combo potential in 6 and 8, finds a way to remove one of them from the board while letting Midas lock in all the cards, but has this just incredible 5 setup. And I know Chicony is primarily a defensive player and thought of as a defensive player, but I think this is a wonderful offensive concept in defense, right? Under duress, in a very difficult position, he finds a move that concedes everything on the board to control everything kind of off the board, right? Because what he's setting up when he controls 5 is he's giving Midas no future combo play. He's setting himself up in 2. He's setting himself up in 4. And as the game continued, Midas started with Minotaur in 7, 9-5, 2-9, and 7. And Chicony played 5-6-7-7 and 5 anyway. Again noting, you have so little play against this card, it sets me up with a plus in 2, a plus in 4. All my cards play well off this, and the +1 is so weirdly powerful here. Really, really fascinating concept and idea. And Midas ends up saving this one. But somehow it's Midas that ends up saving this one, not Chicony who does. And Chicony's position after the first 2 moves is an absolute nightmare. I think this is my favorite single move of the tournament. That doesn't mean it's the best match of the tournament, but it's such an unusual concept and use of it And the fact that 6 is actually, I really think losing, you can check my analysis in another video, I might be wrong there, is just so remarkable. Incredible save by Chicony, and somehow really turned the game around in a position that, again, I think should have been really bad for him. But sometimes with absolute brilliance, you can take a bad position and make something special of it. This was the deciding game of the match, because they only ended up playing to 1 win here. And I think Chicony just found a nice sense of where Midas' cards couldn't play. That 4-8-7-6 really had so many spots where the 7 just couldn't take anything because an elemental landed on the wrong square. That came up in the previous game too. And here Chicony found the win with a very nice move, not kind of the first move you look at. 2-6-8-9 in 8, locking in 7 forever. 7 and 6 are both safe. That makes it 5-5. Midas has 2 on, the card in 2 is vulnerable. Chicony's card that's vulnerable is 8, but Midas does not have a good way to attack it. 4-8-7-6 and 5 gets comboed back from 4, and then Minotaur is doing nothing. And Minotaur in 5, which is the move that was played, doesn't even actually capture 8, and is also, and after which Chicony can play in 1, locking in 2, and 4-8-7-6 is no captures. There's other moves to check, but they all work out for Chicony. I thought 8 was a really nice winning move and a nice end to the match. So that's the Chicony-Midas match. And we move on to our third and final match of, in my opinion, the 3 best matches of the tournament. Myself versus Delial. And what I want to kind of stress here is I think none of the positions were quite as dangerous or terrifying as in the other games. But I think that speaks to what was really good about this match. And what I'm going to try to emphasize in the highlights is some of the early moves were kind of really well chosen and calibrated to minimize risk from both sides. And that doesn't mean they didn't apply pressure. The move we're seeing on the board is actually quite a lot of pressure. But we both did a nice job of neutralizing advantages quickly, such that on moves 5 or 6, we rarely had to take that much time, because the position was usually, we had both done well enough in the early moves that it wasn't going to be that hard to reach a tie. There were no like desperation, this is terrifying positions. And I think that speaks to it being a really high quality match of Triple Triad, where the quality of early play was high enough that there weren't fireworks in the mid-late game because there wasn't room left for it. We had both done a nice job of neutralizing and keeping the position under control. This is from game 2, and I think Delial's just made an awesome move in 5. He started in 7, I replied with the big corner in 1, and he goes in 5, and it's really tough for me to play around my big corner. Of course, if I ever go in 2, he now has the combo in 4 and flips some extra stuff. Very importantly, he has combo play. Neither of us have combo play in 8, which means I can never combo back there. If I start in 8, he can, I think, maybe leave everything. I forget what happens if I start in 8. Anyways, I ended up playing, it's been too long since I looked at this one. So I have to recalculate, and that always makes for a worse video. What I try to do is not like have checked everything before the video, but like looked at it for 30 seconds beforehand, so I have a sense of where I want to start talking, and I figure I'll find other things as I start talking. But I didn't relook over the Delial games, so this might be a less compelling description, but that's okay. Suffice it to say, I think his move in 5 was really good and the most pressure he had. But I ended up playing 8, 4, 3, 7, and 4, just saying I won't be susceptible to combos. And that was just about enough to get to a relatively comfortable tie. Sometimes like 6, 7, 4, 4 lands in 8. Sometimes that's going to be safe. And most importantly, he doesn't really have a good way to use 8, 7, 5, 3 quickly. And there were a lot of lines where I could get that card to be dead at the end, and due to that, scrape a tie here. But this was one of the games I was in more trouble, and I think 5 was a fantastic move in a setup where 5 is both, not the most common move, but also it doesn't even set up any combo play in 8. And so it can be tough to find a high, moves in 5 tend to be really dynamic combo setting up moves, and it actually isn't setting up that many combos, but it's still very dangerous. So I thought it was a really nice find from Delhi, and a nice example of him finding good pressure. Most of the great moves, I think, in this match were played by Delhi. But this is my favorite spot of the match. This was a closed game, so you may say, okay, not that closed can't be great, but single games of closed tend not to be able to show that much. But this rule set, this was the second game we played on the rule set, and it was really clear we both liked 7-5-4s. So I brought up a list of all the 7-5-4s available, right? And it was also clear we both liked it with 7-5 as the corner. So I brought up specifically all the 7-5-4s where the 7 and 5s were touching. And I assumed, given it's closed, we're both going to be changing and augmenting hands. I think it's too risky to stay on a hand, too readable. But there weren't that many combinations. And as I was looking at my hand this game, I hadn't planned it when I made the hand, but I did figure it out as I was looking at the position. 7-2-4-1, if I play in 5, I might have 5-7-2-4 as a big setup in 7. But then I realized even better, there is a very good chance he has 5-7-2-4 and 4-1-5-7 in his hand. And if I start 7-2-4-1 in 5, there is an excellent chance he sets that up for me, and then is unlikely to block those squares in the future because he is such a perfect card for both of them. And so because the card pool was really small, I could make a read that I thought it was quite likely he had this pair of cards, and if he did, it would be incredibly difficult for him to choose something other than setting up this massive 2-card setup, right? We have to use 2 low-level cards, so you might think he doesn't want to start with a high level, but on second turn, you're only going to have to use one of the low levels. It is perfectly acceptable to start with a high level on this kind of split. I didn't think that would deter him too much. I think first turn, you really want to get a low level out of your hand first, and in the previous game, he had shown how to do that really nicely. But I thought this was a really clever kind of induce him to use a card I want to see, because it's so likely we have the same setups. So if he sets up really good setups for him, it is likely to be really good setups for me as well. And this is by far the game I'm proudest of in the tournament. It is a closed game. I had first turn, massive advantages for me, but I think I'm very happy with my starter here. Thought it was a really clever starter. And the game ended up not being quite as clean as you might think, given that I have such a perfect combo. It was a little scary at the midway, but by the last few moves, it was obvious this was going to win because I have the same card for both squares. And there was combo potential off them. So, quite proud of this move. I think there's a claim that it's the best closed move of the tournament. Just because the stipulations on the hands were so limiting that I could make a kind of hard read that was quite a powerful hard read. So that gives me a 1-0 lead. We move on to game 7. And this was just another example of, I built a counter hand. I built a hand I thought lined up really well against the hand he was using repeatedly. And I started 3-5-7-5 in 3, which I think just creates a lot of difficulties for him. If you look at his captures in 2, he has 4-6-4-7, which I combo back with 4-7-6-4. He has 6-7-6-3, where I can either lock in 6 or play 4-4-8-7 safely in 1, and then I can attack both 2 and 3 and have safety in 1. If he takes in 6 with 8-7-5-3, he has really used up so much of his power facing towards the action, and I can pretty easily, I think, lock back in 2 and have lots of threats against his remaining cards. It blocks the squares 4-2-8-8 wants to land in. He doesn't have big setups in 5 or in adjacent corners against it. I thought this was just a really nice starter against his hand and was going to put him in difficulty. And so, of course, he plays 4-2-8-8 and 6. And suddenly, kind of, none of that matters anymore. He's just getting rid of 2 and 6 and saying, you have a lot of trouble taking this. Yes, your hand, yes, you took the best score away from my card 3, but 6 works just as well. You can lock in your card. That'll give me something to attack. I played 4, 4, 8, 7, and 2, which again looks pretty nice. It's safe. And he plays 3, 5, 7, 5, and 1. I can't really take from 4 without getting comboed. And he pretty comfortably gets to a tie. I think actually in the end of this one, it was me who had to be careful after he went in 1. That, like, I went in 5 and only had 1 tie at the end after that. But of course, with 2 moves left, I will find the 1 tie, and I did make sure it tied. But this was, I think, another example of just how well played this match was, in that after a starter that I think posed very real problems and could have easily earned a win against a weaker opponent, Delhi just finds the move that kind of most cleanly neutralizes everything I was doing and most comfortably reaches a position where he's not going to be in real danger. And so I don't have positions from late in the match of like, ooh, look at this spot where Delhi had to find this great save, because Delhi's early moves were good enough. There was no saves he had to find. And there also aren't really positions where I can go, look at this nice save I've made, because while I think I was slightly shakier than Delhi was in the early game, I was also doing a good job of keeping everything under control. And I think that was what was special about this match, is kind of its unspectacularness, but not coming from like really boring, stodgy play, but coming from some nice finds that neutralized later potential. Another example of this is game 8. Another counter hand for me. Again, you'll notice he's using the same or a very similar hand. I start 6, 3, 6, 7, and 9. This is tough for him to take. He has no captures from 8. Any capture he does from 6, I can either recapture an 8 myself or play safely in 3. I'm trying to exploit the fact that he has trouble taking 7s to the left. And after this game, I messed around a bunch with the solver and just tried to find, is there anything Delhi can do that neutralizes my attack less than or more than what he did? And the answer is no. 3, 5, 7, 5, and 1 is the move that gives him by far the most comfortable paths to a tie. There are lots of moves where he's in trouble or losing. There's a few moves where he's tying, but he has to be a little careful. And then there's 3, 5, 7, 5, and 1, which is just by far the most cleanly neutralizing move and kind of immediately makes the game pretty safe for him. I tried 6, 7, 6, 2, and 8, which I think was a solid try, and he played 6, 7, 6, 3, and 7, and got there pretty cleanly. If I had tried 8, 7, 4, 2, and 4, he had to be a bit more careful. I think Akiyama pointed that out, but I didn't see that idea. I think I played 3, 5, 7, 5, and 4, and it was really comfortable for him. 8, 7, 4, 2, and 4 would have made it, might have led to the one spot in the match where he had to find anything at all difficult. But the point was, his early play was just so precise. Again, I think 3, 5, 7, 5 of the 40 possible moves here for him to make is the absolute best and by far the cleanest defense against a counter hand that I think is a pretty decently made counter hand. So again, no fireworks, just either Delhi finding ways to attack, like the move in 5 after 1-7-5, or 7-1-5, whatever order it was, 7-1-5, or me getting a starter on a counter hand that clearly creates problems for him, and him just playing absolutely the best move immediately, and the one that takes all the sting out of the position immediately. And that's usually the case. Sometimes there are randoms that are lost on the spot or hopeless on the spot, but usually in hand games, even if your hand is really well countered and difficult, there's probably 1 or 2 ways that just say, no, we can calm the waters, this all is going to be okay, it won't be that hard from now. And those moves are really hard to find. Obviously, most of the time they're not found. And I think 2 games in a row here, Delial has taken a kind of tricky hand matchup and just immediately said, no, I am at least equal, and found, I think, basically the only ways to do that. Really a remarkably strong play. So those were the 3 matches that stood out for me in the tournament. Each had a whole bunch of games, generally speaking, going 8 or 9 games. and I thought were complex and had some high-level moves, some high-level thinking. I think these are the three best matchups. Again, you could argue for the other Piggy matchups. I suspect Smokes Turds is pretty good too, but to me, these three stood out, and we're going to have the panel pick. They don't have to pick one of these three matches, though, of course, I've tried to sell these three matchups specifically, and they will choose a best match of the tournament. I think it would be funny if Chicony-Midas was the winner, because Midas would have twice been essentially the loser, but also winner of the best match of the tournament. Midas games are really interesting. There's something about them. And also, if you have a view on which of these is the best, or you're like, okay, these matchups were really good, but the Was Up Delial match shouldn't have been here, you're an egotist. Feel free to send me that, and I'll pass it along to the panel, and it will be considered in the voting, but you probably don't have too much time to do so, because I'm going to try to have a quick turnaround on our pick for match of the tournament. So good luck to the three contestants. Hope you enjoyed the games, and we'll see who wins. Cheers.